This one's a little different. We're going to go over the history of Abilene.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Old Abilene Town. Please give a warm welcome to the Old Abilene Town Gunfighters.
I'm James Smith.
I'm Bill Hickok.
Theodore Marlowe? No. Mikey Williams.
He doesn't know.
I don't know.
He's been drinking.
No.
I'm Lefty. I'm the Undertaker.
Bill Cove.
I'm Miss Sailor.
T.C. Henry.
Johnny Fitzby. Judy Baker.
Sarah Lee Hawk, the Joke and Coma Cherry, and I'm Sally.
Bill Tom. Joseph McCoy.
His name is Matt Basterson. He's our local drummer. And we are the Old Abilene Town Gunfighters. We're a band of misfits and malcontents. Some of us just happen to be slightly less educated than the common house pet. Now, with that being said, the guns we use are real guns, capable of firing live ammunition. But out here we use blanks. That way we can make a lot of noise, have a little bit of fun, and hopefully entertain you kind of folks. Now, after saying that, for all the little ones in the audience, if you see a gun laying around, under a bed, in a closet, or in one of your parents' dresser drawers, where you ain't supposed to be rifling through in the first place, you don't touch it. You don't pick it up, and you never ever play with one. We consider our guns loaded at all times, and we're going to show you why. We're going to shoot that there aluminum can with just a blank. Now that can's kind of special. It is more than 15 times tougher than your skin, and we're going to show you what just a blank can do to it. You missed a piece. Now, has anybody got a way to put that back together? Hold it up. Hold it up. Can y'all put that back together? Alright, now.
Actually, I made a decent hole.
If you see a gun laying around, you don't touch it. You get a hold of an adult, and you remember what just a blank can do to a can. Now, for your safety, stay on our boardwalk, away from the hotel and the jail, and the outhouse is closed during a gunfight for safety reasons. If somebody happens to break that one and only rule, well, we're going to have our gunfighter Matt over here come over and give you a big hug. You don't want that. He smells. He's been drinking for days. That's nasty. Now, if you appreciate our show afterwards, you might be kind enough to leave us a donation. That helps us pay for everything we do out here, and we greatly appreciate it. Now, just give us a couple seconds, we'll get our narrative show started. Thank you.
It's 1870. Cattle are moving north up the Chisholm Trail. Trail used in the post-Civil War era to drive cattle overland from ranches in Texas to Kansas railheads. The Texas cattlemen found out cities in the north and the east paid much higher prices for beef. Thus, the Chisholm Trail originated in southern Texas and ran about 1,000 miles to its end at Abilene. Beginning around 1867, a cattle depot was established in Abilene. It became the destination where the Union Pacific Eastern Division Railway transported cattle to Kansas City, Chicago, and New York City. Abilene was a quiet settlement of a few hundred people from November to April, but during the cattle season, 4,000 cowboys filled the town. Ready to blow off steam, the cowboys crowded into the saloons to drink, gamble, and meet the ladies. Texas Street, or better known as Texas Town, was the place to go, and the cowboys preached the law doesn't belong here. The streets of Abilene were rough, unruly, and lawless. T.C. Henry, the mayor, knew Abilene needed law, but had no place to turn. Locals would not take the job, and even 2 Army soldiers were run out of town before they could begin the sheriff and deputy positions. Henry was at wit's end until he heard about a tough middleweight boxer from New York City. This retired fighter became a law officer, but after a tragic accident, vowed to never use a gun again. The fighter, Tom Smith, gained a reputation subduing a riot in Bear River, Wyoming with only his fast wits and his strong fists. Henry realized he had turned down Smith's application previously, but now Abilene was unmanageable. Henry offered the job to Tom Smith, with all the dirty details that came with it. Tom Bear River Smith agreed to clean up Abilene. The men shook hands, Smith took to the streets, and Henry felt mortified, feeling Smith had surely sealed his own death sentence by accepting the position. Smith was smart and quick. He relied on his wits and fists to handle any ruckus. The cowboys weren't keen on law coming to town. Wyoming Frank was the first to tangle with Tom Smith. He told Smith he had no authority and he'd best get on out of town. Smith didn't back down. In fact, he got right up in Wyoming Frank's face, close enough to smell the whiskey and tobacco on Wyoming's breath. Smith tells him back down and tells Wyoming to abide or get out of town. Wyoming stood his ground as Smith pressed up against the cowboy, forcing the issue. Wyoming Frank wanting to end the confrontation, and the new sheriff reaches for his sidearm. Smith's lightning-fast reflexes move in one swift motion. Smith grabs the gun, flips it, smashing the butt of the gun to the top of Wyoming Frank's head. Wyoming Frank is knocked out cold and hauled off to jail. The cowboys take notice of Tom Bear River Smith, and they decide they don't like him spoiling their fun. About 20 cowboys gather at the Old Fruit Saloon, which is the building where Sweet Daddy's Cafe stands today on 1st Street. A scheme is formed to get the drop on Sheriff Smith. A messenger takes a note to Smith's office telling him of trouble down at the Old Fruit Saloon. Smith thinks a bit on the information and decides to wait a spell, knowing cowboys with time to drink more aim worse. Smith finally ambles over to the Old Fruit Saloon and is greeted by a gambler leaning near the saloon door. Sheriff Tom Smith walks into the dimly lit saloon. Gunshots immediately pierce the air. One, another, too many to count, but miraculously, none hit Smith. Smith plows through the crowd to find the ringleader, pummels him and throws him out into the street. Next stop for this sorry cowboy was jail. Texas Town became quiet that day. Law and order was restored to Abilene along with compliance of the gun ordinance, which stated sidearms were allowed but could not be fired in the city limits. In the fall of that same year, Sheriff Smith was called to serve papers to Andrew McConnell and Moses Miles north of Abilene. It went terribly wrong, and Smith was murdered by treachery. Lawless once more, the people of Abilene were disheartened, dreading April and the next cattle season. April came as predicted. Hell was in session. The newly elected mayor, Joseph McCoy, knew the town was in big trouble. His quest for a lawman disclosed tales of a gunslinger. It was said in Mesa, Arizona, 2 murderers fled from this man, one running up the street, the other running down the street in opposite directions. This gunslinger shot simultaneously and killed them both. That man was Wild Bill Hickok, and he was in town. McCoy hired Wild Bill against the wishes of the rest of the town council. Hickok was the opposite of Tom Smith, with a shoot first and ask questions later attitude.
I just saw him move.
The Cowboys hated Wild Bill and wanted him gone. 2 saloon owners, Phil Coe and Ben Thompson, took note of their disgruntled customers. Thinking of their bank accounts, Coe and Thompson swore that they would kill Wild Bill before the end of the season. A cold, bitter night, October 5th, 1871. The cattle season was near the end. A large group of cowboys gathered on the street in front of the Alamo Saloon. While guns were allowed, no discharge in city limits were permitted. Wild Bill smelled trouble and sauntered up to the gathering. At that moment, Phil Coe unloaded his gun inside the Alamo, as devised. Wild Bill went to investigate. Wild Bill realizes that he had just killed his young deputy, Mike Williams. Wild Bill stands up, runs his blood-soaked hands through his hair, and glares at the crowd. The cowboys, fearing for their lives, slithered away. October 5th, 1871, the day the cowboys died. The cattle drives. Abilene stockyards closed down and would not receive cattle. This affected towns like Waterville, who lost the drives at their location. Soon, the cattle drives died out completely. Wild Bill Hickok was never the same after the shooting of his friend Mike Williams. Wild Bill Hickok's position was not renewed to him in Abilene. He left town and drifted, landing in Deadwood, South Dakota, to a quiet life, only later to die as he was shot from behind as he played cards.
We hope y'all enjoyed our little short narrative, the story of the history of the city of Abilene. We're also going to have some gunfighters walk around with their hats out if you'd like to leave a
Abilene, City
donation.
on the Plains, has many colorful stories. Old Abilene Town plans to bring more stories to life in the future. Stay tuned.
I sit alone most every night.
It's now safe also if you want to come out and take pictures with the gunfighters. And there's can-can dance about to go on. Feel free to walk around, ask questions, or have a good day. Thank y'all.